If today was your very last day on Earth, what would you regret the most? Take a moment, really think about that. Would it be the words you never said? The people you never visited? Or maybe the dreams you never dared to chase? The truth is, most of us live like we have unlimited time. We keep telling ourselves, I'll fix that relationship later. I'll take that trip next year. I'll start living differently when things calm down. But here's the scary part. Most people don't realize they're making the biggest mistakes of their lives until it's already too late. I've spent years reading, listening, and learning from people in their final moments. Nurses, hospice workers, even family members who've sat by someone's bedside in those last precious days. And again, the same patterns show up. The same 7 regrets. And what's even more unsettling, you might already be carrying some of them right now, without even knowing it. So in this video, we're not just going to list these 7 regrets. We're going to dig into the real stories behind them, the lessons people wish they had learned earlier, so that you can avoid making the same mistakes. Because life is too short to look back and say, I wish I had. You know, when people look back at their lives from a hospital bed or a quiet chair by the window, the one regret that breaks them the most isn't about money or fame or the things they didn't buy. It's about people. It's about moments they let slip away. I remember reading the story of a man, let's call him David. On paper, David had it all. A successful career, a beautiful home, a bank account that most of us can only dream about. But as he grew older, something started gnawing at him. It wasn't the fear of losing his wealth. It was the realization that he had missed his daughter's childhood almost entirely. He remembered the mornings he left home before sunrise and came back long after she was asleep. The birthdays he joined over the phone. The soccer games he promised to attend but didn't, because just one more meeting always seemed more important in the moment. And by the time he finally slowed down enough to notice his little girl had grown up, she had her own life, her own world, and he was just a visitor in it. That's the thing about family time, it doesn't wait for you. You can't store it in a bank and cash it out later. Every missed dinner, every weekend you say maybe next time is gone forever. And here's the cruel truth. No one on their deathbed says, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. But countless people say, I wish I'd been there more for the people I love. So how do we avoid this? It's not just about wanting to spend more time. It's about making it non-negotiable. Just like you wouldn't cancel an important meeting with a client. Don't cancel time with your loved ones. Block it out in your calendar. Protect it like your life depends on it, because the quality of your life actually does. This could be as simple as a weekly family dinner where phones stay off the table, or a Saturday morning walk with your spouse, or setting aside the first 30 minutes after you get home as uninterrupted time with your kids. The activity doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be consistent. And if you think you're too busy, here's a perspective check. The average full-time worker in the U.S. spends about 2,000 hours a year at their job. But when researchers asked parents how much actual face-to-face, meaningful time they had with their children each week, the average was shockingly low, less than 7 hours. That's less than 1 hour a day. Is that really the legacy we want to leave? Let me ask you this. If you had just 1 year left to live, would you still say, I don't have time for the people who matter most? Or would you rearrange your priorities in a heartbeat? The truth is, you don't need to wait for a diagnosis or a crisis to do that. You can start now. Another tip, make micro moments count. You might not always be able to take a week-long vacation, but you can turn off your phone for the 20 minutes you have breakfast together. You can send a quick voice message to check in. You can look your partner in the eye and actually listen instead of scrolling while they talk. These little actions might seem small, but over time they build a life where connection is the default, not the exception. And for those of you watching who've already missed some of those moments, don't let guilt keep you stuck. It's never too late to start showing up. Reach out. Plan that coffee. Write that letter. Call your mom. Surprise your best friend. You might be amazed at how even a small effort can rebuild a bridge you thought was gone forever. Here's what I know: at the end of your life, it won't be the awards, the job titles, or the bank balance that matter. It'll be the people who show up in your final days, the ones who sit beside you, hold your hand, and remind you that you were loved. The question is, will you have invested enough in those relationships for them to be there? Because family and true friends, they're not just nice to have. They are the safety net that catches us when life gets hard, and the mirror that reflects our best selves back to us. But that net only holds if we take care of it. So here's your challenge for today. Look at your calendar. Where can you carve out sacred, non-negotiable family time? Block it in. And then keep it. No excuses. Because one day you'll be grateful you made that choice. And so will the people who matter most to you. Let me tell you about a man I once read about. We'll call him Richard. Richard was the definition of a hard worker. First one in the office, last one to leave. He climbed the corporate ladder faster than anyone else. He had the house, the cars, the retirement savings. On paper, he was living the dream. But here's the thing. When Richard finally retired, he sat in his big, beautiful home and realized he didn't have a single story that made his heart race with joy. He couldn't remember the last time he had taken a spontaneous trip. He had no mental snapshots of laughing around a campfire with friends or watching a sunset on the beach with someone he loved. All he had were memories of meetings, deadlines, and deals. And when he looked back, that dream life he worked so hard for felt strangely empty. This is the trap so many of us fall into, believing that the goal of life is to work now so we can live later. But the problem is, later never comes. Something always gets in the way. There's always another project, another bill, another reason to put off the things that actually make life worth living. Here's what I want you to think about. If your life was a photo album, what would it be filled with? Spreadsheets and email threads, or moments that make you smile just thinking about them? Because one of the most common regrets people share at the end of their lives is this: I wish I had lived more and worked less. Not because work is bad, work can be meaningful, and it can even be a source of pride, but because they let work take everything. Their time, their energy, their relationships, their health. So how do we avoid this? We have to prioritize experiences over possessions. That means shifting the way we measure success. Instead of asking, how much did I earn this year? Start asking, how many memories did I make? How often did I feel truly alive? And no, you don't have to quit your job or sell everything to live fully. You just need to create space for life outside of work. Maybe it's leaving the office on time so you can have dinner with friends. Maybe it's booking that weekend road trip you've been talking about for years. Maybe it's finally taking that art class you've always wanted to try. Research backs this up. Studies show that experiences bring us more lasting happiness than material things. That new phone or bigger TV, it feels exciting for a moment, but it fades fast. A shared experience, on the other hand, a trip, a celebration, a night of deep conversation. Those memories stay with you. They become part of who you are. I'll give you an example from my own life. A few years ago, I had the chance to work overtime on a big project that came with a generous bonus. But at the same time, a close friend invited me on a hiking trip in the mountains. My first instinct was to take the overtime. After all, extra money is always tempting. But something in me said, take the trip. And you know what? Years later, I barely remember what I did at work that week. But I remember every detail of that trip. The crisp air, the sound of the river, the laughter around the campfire. That memory has paid me back 1,000 times more than that bonus ever could. So ask yourself, what are you chasing right now, and will it still matter to you in 10 years, or will it just be another line on your resume? Here's a practical tip: schedule non-work milestones into your year. Not just deadlines and meetings, actual life goals. Plan that family reunion. Mark the date for your best friend's wedding. Set a reminder for a personal adventure you've always wanted to try. Treat those dates with the same importance you would a critical meeting, because they are critical. Also, learn to set boundaries. Turn off your email notifications after a certain hour. Use your vacation days. And when you're off, actually be off. You might think the company can't survive without you for a week, but trust me, it will. And you'll come back with more energy and clarity than before. At the end of your life, no one is going to stand up at your funeral and read your job description. They'll talk about the moments you shared, the ways you made them feel, the memories you left behind. So don't spend all your best years trading time for money, thinking you'll buy your life back later. Time doesn't work that way. Your challenge this week: do one thing that's purely for you, purely for joy, and don't let work steal that moment. Go to the concert, call that friend, watch the sunset. Start building an album of memories that you'll be proud to look back on. Because in the end, the real measure of a life well lived isn't the hours you worked. It's the moments you truly lived. Let me tell you about a man I once read about. We'll call him Richard. Richard was the definition of a hard worker. First one in the office, last one to leave. He climbed the corporate ladder faster than anyone else. He had the house, the cars, the retirement savings. On paper, he was living the dream. But here's the thing: when Richard finally retired, he sat in his big, beautiful home and realized he didn't have a single story that made his heart race with joy. He couldn't remember the last time he had taken a spontaneous trip. He had no mental snapshots of laughing around a campfire with friends or watching a sunset on the beach with someone he loved. All he had were memories of meetings, deadlines, and deals. And when he looked back, that dream life he worked so hard for felt strangely empty. This is the trap so many of us fall into, believing that the goal of life is to work now so we can live later. But the problem is, later never comes. Something always gets in the way. And you know what? Years later, I barely remember what I did at work that week. But I remember every detail of that trip: the crisp air, the sound of the river, the laughter around the campfire. That memory has paid me back 1,000 times more than that bonus ever could. So ask yourself, what are you chasing right now, and will it still matter to you in 10 years, or will it just be another line on your resume? Here's a practical tip: schedule non-work milestones into your year. Not just deadlines and meetings, actual life goals. Plan that family reunion. Mark the date for your best friend's wedding. Set a reminder for a personal adventure you've always wanted to try. Treat those dates with the same importance you would a critical meeting, because they are critical. Also, learn to set boundaries. Turn off your email notifications after a certain hour. Use your vacation days. And when you're off, actually be off. Claire had a complicated relationship with her father. Years of misunderstandings, pride, and unspoken words had built a wall between them. Deep down, she loved him. She wanted to tell him that. She wanted to say, "I forgive you." But every time the moment came, she hesitated. "I'll tell him next time," she thought. when the mood is right, when I'm ready. But that next time never came. One morning, Claire got the call. Her father had passed away in his sleep. And in that instant, the weight of all those unspoken words hit her harder than she ever thought possible. Here's the truth: we think we have time, but we don't. We think people will always be there, that we'll get another chance to say, "I love you," "I'm sorry," or "I forgive you." But life doesn't always give us that chance. Not expressing your true feelings is one of the deepest regrets people carry to the end. And it's not just about love or forgiveness. It's about telling people what they mean to you while you still can. It's about being honest when you're hurt, grateful when you're thankful, and brave enough to speak your heart even when it feels uncomfortable. Why don't we do it more often? Fear. Fear of rejection, fear of looking weak, fear of making things awkward. But here's what I've learned. Emotional courage is a superpower. When you speak your truth with kindness and sincerity, you not only free yourself from the burden of silence, you give the other person a gift they'll carry forever. Think about it. How many times has someone told you something heartfelt, and you've remembered it years later, a compliment that boosted your confidence, an apology that healed an old wound, a declaration of love that made you feel truly seen? These moments become emotional landmarks in our lives. And yet, we hold back. We wait. We assume people already know how we feel, but they don't. Not unless we tell them. Let me ask you this. If you only had 24 hours left to live, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? The good news is, you can start small. Practice honest communication in everyday life. Tell your friend you appreciate them. Thank your partner for something specific they did today. If you've been carrying resentment, consider expressing it not to attack, but to clear the air. And if forgiveness is possible, offer it. Remember, expressing your feelings isn't just for the other person, it's for you too. Bottled up emotions create stress, anxiety, and even health problems. When you release them in a healthy way, you make space for peace and connection. I'll share something from my own life. A few years ago, I reached out to an old friend I'd lost touch with after a misunderstanding. For years, I told myself, it's fine, it's in the past. But deep down, it wasn't fine. So one day I sent a simple message: I miss you. I'm sorry for how things ended. Within minutes, they replied with the same words. That conversation healed something in both of us. And it reminded me sometimes the distance between two hearts is just one honest sentence. So here's my challenge for you this week. Tell one person something you've been holding back. It could be, I love you. It could be, I'm proud of you. It could be, I forgive you. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The right time is when you think about it. Because here's the thing, at the end of your life, you won't regret saying those words. You'll only regret staying silent. And if the person you want to speak to is no longer here, you can still write them a letter. Say the words out loud. It may not reach their ears, but it will lighten your heart. Life is too short for unspoken truths. Let the people you love know you love them. Let the people who hurt you know you've forgiven them. And let yourself live without the weight of, I wish I had said. Let me tell you a story I've heard far too many times. Two old classmates, let's call them Mike and John, were inseparable in high school. They played on the same basketball team, skipped classes together, even shared dreams about the future. But after graduation, life happened. Mike moved for work, John got married, and those weekly hangouts turned into occasional phone calls, then holiday cards, and eventually nothing. 30 years later, they saw each other again, but it was at a funeral. John was standing at the back of the church, realizing that the person in the casket was one of the only people who truly knew him when he was young. And in that moment, he was hit with a wave of regret. All those years, all those missed chances to reconnect, and now it was too late. Here's the thing, friendships are like plants. They don't survive without care. We think strong bonds will last forever, but without effort, even the closest connections fade. Life gets busy, schedules fill up, and before we know it, years have passed without a real conversation. But here's the truth. Friendship isn't about constant presence. It's about intentional connection. You don't have to talk every day to keep a bond alive, but you do have to make sure the distance between "I'll call you soon and it's been 10 years" doesn't become a canyon you can't cross. So how do we avoid this regret? Make reconnecting a habit. Put it on your calendar, literally. Set reminders to reach out to your closest friends every few months. Send a quick message just to say, "Hey, I was thinking about you." It doesn't have to be deep or perfect. It just has to be genuine. And here's something to think about. Friendships aren't just nice to have. They're linked to better mental health, longer lifespans, and greater resilience during tough times. Studies have shown that people with strong social connections live on average 7 years longer than those without them. That's not just extra time, it's better quality of life. If you're listening to this right now and someone's face just popped into your mind, call them. Don't wait until it's a better time. Don't wait for a wedding, a reunion, or worse, a funeral. Because the truth is, the best time to reconnect is always now. So here's your challenge for today. Pick one friend you've lost touch with. Send them a message. Set a date. Laugh about the old days. Make a new memory. Because in the end, it's not just about remembering the friends we've had, it's about keeping them while we can. I can't tell you how many times I've heard older people say this. "I wish I had walked more. I wish I had eaten better. I wish I had managed my stress." And the look in their eyes says it all, because once your health starts to slip, you realize it's the foundation for everything else in life. Here's the truth: when you're young or even middle-aged, it's easy to take your body for granted. You pull all-nighter, skip workouts, grab fast food because it's convenient, and tell yourself, "I'll get healthy later." But later has a way of sneaking up on you. And when it does, sometimes the damage is already done. Think about it. What's the point of having money, success, or free time if you're too sick, too tired, or in too much pain to enjoy it? Longevity isn't just about living longer. It's about living better. That's why the people who reach old age with fewer regrets are the ones who adopted small, daily habits early on. And I'm not talking about some massive, overwhelming lifestyle overhaul. I'm talking about simple, consistent actions. Walking 20 to 30 minutes a day. Eating real, unprocessed foods most of the time. Getting enough sleep and letting your body recover. Learning how to manage stress, whether that's through meditation, prayer journaling, or just taking a few deep breaths when life gets chaotic. The science backs this up. Research shows that even light daily activity can lower your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and depression. And people who maintain a healthy lifestyle can add up to 14 more years to their lives. 14 years, that's more time with your family, more sunsets, more laughter. So ask yourself, what's one small change you can make today? Not next week, not next year, today. Because your future self is going to thank you, or wish you had started sooner. Your body is the only home you have to live in for your entire life. Treat it well now so you can enjoy the years ahead without wishing you could go back and do it differently. One of the most painful regrets people share at the end of their lives is this: "I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the one others expected of me." Think about it. How many choices in your life have been made because you wanted to, and how many because you felt you had to. Maybe you picked a career to make your parents proud, stayed in a relationship to avoid judgment, or kept silent about your dreams because you were afraid people would laugh. I once heard the story of a woman named Linda. She had always wanted to be a writer, but her family convinced her to take a safe corporate job. She told herself she'd write in her free time. But years passed, and her dreams stayed locked away. When she retired, she realized she had spent decades living someone else's idea of a good life, and it was too late to get those years back. Living authentically doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind or ignoring responsibilities. It means defining your values and aligning your choices with them. It means asking yourself, what actually matters to me, and having the courage to follow that path, even if it's not the popular one. Here's the truth: when you live for other people's approval, you may win their praise, but you lose your own sense of self. And in the quiet moments when no one is watching, you'll feel that emptiness. The good news: you can start changing that today. Write down your top 3 values. Look at the decisions you're making right now, your work, your relationships, your daily habits, and ask, are these choices true to who I am? Or am I trying to fit into someone else's mold? Because at the end of your life, it won't matter how many people you impressed. It will matter whether you can look back and say, that was me. I lived my truth. One of the saddest things I've heard from people near the end of their lives is this: I kept thinking happiness would come after. After they got the promotion. After they bought the house. After they lost the weight. After the kids grew up. But for so many, that after never came. Life kept moving the goalposts, and happiness was always just one step away until it was out of reach completely. I remember reading about a man named George who spent his whole life chasing someday. He told himself he'd take that dream trip after retirement, spend more time with his wife after the mortgage was paid off, and finally relax once things settled down. But when retirement came, his health had already started to decline. That dream trip, it never happened. The long walks with his wife. Too late, she had passed away a year earlier. Here's the truth: happiness is not a destination. It's a daily choice. If you're always postponing joy until conditions are perfect, you'll never actually feel it. Life will always have challenges, unexpected bills and things that don't go according to plan. But there will also always be small moments worth savoring if you train yourself to notice them. So how do you avoid this regret? Start finding joy in small daily moments. That first sip of coffee in the morning. A hug from someone you love. The sunlight streaming through your window. The sound of your favorite song. These aren't just background noise, they're the texture of a life well lived. Gratitude is the bridge to this kind of happiness. Studies show that people who practice gratitude regularly report higher life satisfaction and lower stress regardless of their circumstances. You can start by writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day. They don't have to be big. Sometimes the smallest joys are the most powerful. And here's something to remember: happiness now doesn't mean ignoring your goals or responsibilities. It means refusing to put your life on hold until you reach them. You can work toward a better future and appreciate the present at the same time. Ask yourself, if I were told I only had 1 year left, what would I stop waiting for? And then stop waiting, because at the end of your life, you won't remember every task you checked off or every dollar you saved, but you will remember the laughter, the love, and the little things that made you smile along the way. When it comes down to it, the biggest regret people have isn't about missed opportunities or wrong turns. It's about not realizing how precious life is until there's no time left to live it. But here's the good news: you still have time. You can choose right now to start living in a way that leaves no room for "I wish I had." You can nurture your relationships, take care of your health, speak your truth, and make space for joy starting today. So let me ask you, out of all the regrets we've talked about, which one hit you the hardest? Which one will you work on first? Don't wait for the right time, because the right time is now. Every small step you take today is a gift to your future self and the version of you that will look back and say, "I'm glad I didn't waste my time." If this message resonated with you, I want you to keep going. Your next step. Watch my video, 5 Life Lessons to Learn Before It's Too Late. It's packed with wisdom that will help you live with intention, purpose, and peace. I'll link it right here and in the description. And before you go, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next part of this journey. Because every week, we dive deeper into how to create a life you'll be proud to look back on one without regrets. Life is happening right now. Don't just watch it pass by, live it.